right. Are you ready, Madison?
I'm ready.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for participating in this experiment with me, trying to learn exactly what you're going to be, in many cases, learning in the next few weeks as you adapt to this changing environment and get used to teaching using very different technology. Who knew that I would be delivering our welcoming assembly to an empty room, right? It's all Madison. But I'm really glad that we get to be together, even if it's remotely right now. So welcome. I want to do a big shout out to our history department for pioneering this technology and for sharing, yes, for sharing it with all of us. A huge shout out to Kayleen, who has helped all of you across our college and across the campus learn how to leverage this technology too. I think we're in a much better place than a lot of institutions in terms of figuring out how we're going to get through this pandemic, at least this fall semester. And before I really begin working through these slides and sharing information with you, sharing successes with you and then some challenges, and sharing research with you as well, I also really want to thank our marketing director, Madison. Madison has worked really hard on these things, and her job, I think, has become exponentially more difficult over the last few months. And so I'm really grateful for her friendship and her hard work and the ways in which she tries to support all your programs. So yes.
Thank you, Kandi.
You bet. Okay, so welcome. See if the clicker works. Clicker doesn't work. See, this happens.
Let me try something.
We're gonna try something. Can you see the slides? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the slides? Okay, that's good.
Does it work now?
Let me see. All right. Okay, well, I thought I would start today by talking a little bit about what our goal, what our objective was last year, and really kind of bring this full circle and talk about how well we have done, really talk about how well you have done. And it really, our direction, our mission is really set at the institutional level. And last year in his welcoming assembly or his fall address, President Satterlee said that our goal, that our objective, that our primary focus really needed to be on recruitment and retention. Matter of fact, this was a quote that we took from his presentation. Helping our students walk across the stage at commencement, breaks my heart we couldn't do it this year. That's our primary goal. It is and needs to be the goal of all of us. Everything we do in every office impacts students on a daily basis. I think with all of the unexpected changes that we are dealing with today, and we'll deal with on Monday, and thinking about where the place our students are coming from, we've got a really big task here, whether it's about recruitment and retention, but just a really big task to help them make it through all of those obstacles, all of those goals and mini goals, sub goals that they're going to have to work through to be able to be successful. So it's going to be a big year, and I think this quote applies not only to the previous year, but also to the upcoming year for all of us. Okay. I thought maybe President Satterlee talks a lot about our why. And so why last year did he share that quote? Why did he charge us to work on and focus on recruitment and retention as an institution? And I think it's no surprise, except for maybe to our new faculty, that the challenge really has been enrollment over the years, right? We've seen declining enrollment. As a matter of fact, if you look at our enrollment early on in this figure, and this is annual headcount for the entire institution, our enrollment looked pretty good, but those numbers were somewhat masked by the fact that we had a lot of international students. So yes, our overall enrollment was great due to international students. Our overall enrollment was great due to dual enrollment. But our domestic enrollment was really challenged. We were really losing students in our own communities in our own state. So once we kind of removed, and you can see it in the figure here, some of the international students, keeping in mind dual enrollment was still going strong and still is, that we still continue to kind of mask some of the real challenges that the institution was having with recruitment and with retention. So this is a goal. This is something important that we have to attend to. And he was really responding to data.
Here, I want to grab the mouse and just use the mouse to click.
So in other words, last year, given the information that the president shared with us, given the data that we looked at, and actually we knew was coming because we had talked about it about 5 years ago, we kind of challenged everybody to think about retention, recognizing that we do pretty good at getting students here in one form or another, and that once a student kind of reaches that final year, their senior year, we pretty much see them through to graduation, but it's that middle time. In some cases, because so many students are coming with dual enrollment, it's really that second year, because some of our students are graduating in 3 years. So retention was really our challenge, and we had to really focus on it in order to make some changes, in order to see more of those students fall or make it through the pipeline. Okay, there we go. And I'm trying to think about how did we go about being successful this year? What did we do to do our part to help with recruitment and with retention? And I think in many ways, Cal did what it does best. It continued to provide students with outstanding instruction, exceptional instruction. And I think there's a lot of data points that demonstrate that we are doing and engaging in activities in the classroom that really draw students in and that keep students here. And I'll show you data to demonstrate that that's not just my perception, but that is reality as seen in the data. One of the things you all did, all of you, right, with very little to no notice, with varying degrees of comfort, you moved all of your classes during the pandemic fully online, right? Some of you had never taught online, but you did it successfully. And you did it in part because if you didn't know how to do it, you had a colleague who did. You worked together, you relied upon each other, and we did it, to be honest with you, with very little, with very little challenge, with very little consternation, with certainly very few failures, and mostly with successes. I would actually argue that we're constantly revisiting our curriculum and trying to find ways to better serve students and make sure that they can still have the experiences that they need to have while still meeting the objectives of the general education curriculum. One really great example, and a shout out to Samantha Black in biological anthropology, she created this new Goal 5 course, right? And Sam has done a phenomenal job of promoting this science, right, degree, the science course, and making it an option for students in Cal to really have an excellent experience. I mean, she's created in some ways a monster because we actually don't have enough seats this year. So she's teaching a large number of students, and I've actually decided I'm finally gonna quit asking Kate to add more seats. But a big shout out, that's a huge accomplishment, in part because we're signaling to students that science is more than the natural sciences, more than the physical sciences. It is also the social and behavioral sciences. So that's I think a pretty incredible accomplishment. One of the other ways that we are expanding our reach and doing great things and serving the needs of our community while recruiting and retaining students in the way that we do it best, we developed a new MA in Spanish. We've been working for close to a decade and trying to create and implement this Spanish program, a fully online program that is offered and available statewide. And last year we had kind of a soft opening for that Spanish program. I think we had about 5 or 6 students. This year, that MA in Spanish had 75 applicants to that program. You know, who knew? Who knew? I'll tell you who knew. Kathleen Tarp and her colleagues in global studies and languages, they knew that there was a need that was not being met. And they worked really hard to make sure that they were meeting it. And it was very rewarding the other day to welcome those students to our campus. So very exciting. We all know about the ongoing success of our MSW program, that we're seeing more students and more professionals, well-trained professionals in our communities as a result of the development of that program. That program met its second benchmark en route to accreditation. So shout out to our social work faculty members, to Freddie and her team for making that program a great success. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention also that literally the day before we were giving the shelter-in-place order, our music program had just completed its accreditation site visit and did it with great grace and did it incredibly in a very professional manner. And we've only heard really great things as we would expect from the visit team as a result of that site visit. So I can't imagine going through accreditation the day before we excused the campus for a pandemic. But nice job, Tom, and our folks in the performing arts. So I share these as just examples. There are many, many more that I'm not going to be able to talk about today. But what I'm hoping you will do, okay, as I talk about even some individual accomplishments that map onto and are evidence of the ways in which we teach well and how teaching well really helps us with recruitment of students and with retention. You know, I would welcome you to take advantage of your chat function that you all have and celebrate your colleagues, those that are mentioned and those that we don't really have time to mention but should be mentioning. So feel free to chat with the group and congratulate a colleague as we talk about some of the evidence that we are doing great things in terms of our teaching, our research, and our service in ways that really do help ISU improve its recruitment and retention goals. So that being said, a few examples of some outstanding teaching just from last year alone. Last year, as is often the case in the College of Arts and Letters, faculty members were recognized for being master teachers. And last year, Dr. Matt Van Winkle and Vanessa Ballum were both acknowledged as master teachers on our campus. Also last year, Dr. Nancy Legg was the recipient of the Benny Teaching Award. And this is something that nobody knows, including the person I'm hoping, I can't see all of you, on this Zoom meeting. The College of Arts and Letters received a GEM Award for the second time in a row for outstanding teaching in the social sciences. So congratulations to our very own Dr. Justin Stover. It makes me very proud. Our faculty really do take their teaching responsibilities seriously. They care about their students, and it's acknowledged in lots of ways in which we change what we're doing to do them better. We change what we're doing even when it's hard, and we do it with great success. That's not just true in terms of teaching. We don't just leverage what we do in the classroom to bring students in and to keep them a part of our institution, but we also do it in our research. We do it whether we're talking about creative activity or we're talking about bench science, human science. We work really closely with our students. Our research provides educational opportunities that they would not have if you were not so invested in your careers, in your discipline, in providing opportunities that students at other types of institutions don't receive. So I want to thank you for that. And I think we may have to go back a slide.
Yeah.
Can you help me with that?
Yes.
See? We have the same problem. Thank you. One of the things that we've seen is that ISU and the College of Arts and Letters in particular hired incredibly talented individuals who are leaders in their discipline. And as a result, Madison, can you help me again? As a result, we have supported over the years a lot of faculty travel and a lot of research. And we're going to find ways to continue to do those things. We know we've had some budget challenges this last year, but I think because our faculty are so active and because they are doing such incredible work and it's being recognized not just locally and regionally, but nationally, internationally, we've had to rethink and work harder at our relationship with the Office of Research. And as a matter of fact, when we went through some transition in the College of Arts and Letters office recently, when we brought Dr. Michelle Brownlee in as the Associate Dean for the Social and Behavioral Sciences, we specifically gave her the task of building and strengthening the relationship that we have with the Office of Research. And I think that's been really successful. We've sent out a few notices in the last year about how many of our faculty members have received seed grants. And so clearly rebuilding that relationship and finding more ways to support our faculty continues to be a goal. And I think that pays off dividends for our faculty as professionals in their disciplines, but also pays off dividends for our students. This next year, we actually tried to do this last spring. We worked really hard to try to have some college-specific grant writing training, not just out-of-the-box grant writing training. And unfortunately, that occurred right in the middle of the COVID crisis. So I want to assure you that that has not fallen off our radar, that we see this as an important way to continue to invest in faculty and in the things that they care about. So that will happen. And right now we are planning to do that in the spring, even if we have to do it remotely. So those opportunities and our continued investment in research, because it does indeed not only support each and every one of you in the ways that you need and want, but also supports our students, really matters and is a priority for us. And much like teaching, the faculty in the College of Arts and Letters are recognized for really doing excellent research. They're recognized in their disciplines, they are recognized in our university community. And as a matter of fact, Madison, I'm gonna let you push. Oh, great. First one.
Oh no.
Isn't this fun?
Yeah, there we go.
And this last year, although we did not have the distinguished faculty celebration that we are used to, our very own Dr. Mark Macbeth was recognized as ISU's distinguished researcher for his long and productive scholarly career, as well as Dr. Jonathan Fardy as one of our outstanding researchers. And the chair of the Research Council, and I'm getting dry, was our very own Dr. Katrina Running. So leading research in our institution as a member of a committee in service to research and in service to all of us. And two of our colleagues in the Department of Psychology recently received a $1.1 million training grant to help better prepare clinical psychology students for dealing with the opioid crisis. So congratulations to Dr. Stephen Lawyer and Dr. Samuel Peer. I think that one is so obvious in terms of how that helps us in terms of recruiting and retaining students. And our very own Dr. Evan Rodriguez, who was a recipient of an NEH fellowship. So I'm hoping that what you're starting to see is there's a pattern here, right? Is that you all do such a great job in terms of balancing and doing the things that faculty do best, teaching, research, and in a moment I'll talk about service, that those are the reasons why students choose to come here, and those are the reasons why students choose to stay here. Okay? In terms of service, when we're working closely with our students get the opportunity to see how their skills really apply, how they're able to embrace that skill set and make a difference in the communities that many of them want to go back and work in. And last year, after years of tremendous work with the Division of Health Sciences and our Latino population, Dr. Kathleen Tarp was recognized as ISU's Distinguished Service Recipient. And once again, on the phone with us today Dr. Diana Livingston Friedley is serving at the governor's appointment to the Idaho Commission of the Arts, and she is also serving as the vice chair of that committee, so serving her state at that level. And our very own Dr. Jason Carr is representing all of us in terms of service, not just to the community, not to the state, but also in service to our institution as one of our faculty members who was recently elected as part of Faculty Senate leadership. Next slide. I also want to take a moment and recognize that many of our faculty members engage in service that's very selfless and helps us as an institution to continue to move forward. And I'm grateful to Dr. Brent Wolter, who stepped away from the things that he was working on in order to serve last year in a couple of different leadership roles, but clearly as the interim dean for the graduate school. And I'm grateful to Dr. Kelly Kirkpatrick for working again, being reelected or reappointed. Kelly could probably tell me better. To the Institutional Policy Committee. One of the things I think is really important is that as our institution continues to evolve, as our institution changes as a result of new leadership, trying to find ways and ensuring that the policies of the institution match with our values is so critically important. So I'm truly grateful to Dr. Kelly Kirkpatrick for her work on this committee, as well as our faculty members who serve in leadership roles in their discipline. So many of our faculty members serve in leadership roles of their discipline, but Dr. Karen Hartman is one example of somebody who is doing just that as the executive director of the International Association for Communication. So think about how many ways our faculty engaging in this kind of service creates opportunities for students, allows you to be a leader in your discipline, and allows you to bring back that information, bring back those experiences to the classroom to change their lives. Pretty amazing, right? I mean, that's why our teaching, our research, and our service are the things that really help us to recruit and retain students. But to be honest with you, that's not all you did this year, okay? Many of you took on some challenges. Many of you helped us do some things institutionally that you didn't have to do, that we didn't have to take on, but we did it because we were really committed to doing our part with recruitment and with retention. So for instance, our faculty recognized that the course for first year seminar wasn't really meeting the needs of our students in the way that we wanted it to. So a number of you stepped up. A number of you took the time to help us redesign that retention tool and create the ROAR 1199 course that will be rolled out this fall semester. And we have a group of faculty, very committed faculty, who are taking on this challenge of working closely and developing relationships with students. In many cases, first generational college students who are going to look to them for answers, who are going to receive as a result of those classes an opportunity to navigate something that seems really difficult for them, right? Navigate higher ed and navigate it during a very difficult time. So I'm truly grateful to all the faculty members who have taken on the challenge to help us make sure our students transition successfully to the university and continue to be a part of our community. In addition, we're in this classroom because of your innovation. We are in this room because the history faculty took a risk, right? They said, you know, we think we can create access, greater access for our students if we leverage technology. And through the work of Kayleen and our colleagues in history, we started to adopt this idea, this notion that video conferencing could be a tool that would help us meet the needs of our students. What's interesting was the timing, right? I had no idea, as I'm sure they didn't either, that very next semester, at the end of that semester, that the university would invest in over 300 hours in order to help us survive, right, the pandemic. So I'm truly grateful to our history faculty who pioneered the use of that technology here at ISU. And I'm grateful that they have made it possible for you all to be able to use that in this coming semester. But that's not an investment that happens once. That's an investment that will continue to provide dividends for our institution. And it was actually our development officer, Matt Stuckey, who saw that possibility and really went after resources to make that happen. So Matt has secured resources to allow us to increase our footprint, our educational footprint in Southeast Idaho by receiving donations from Direct Communication and from another organization on the eastern part of the state called ETC, and by how many development officers earn an Idaho Humanities Grant, okay? Matt received an Idaho Humanities Grant to help us leverage this technology to create opportunities for students in rural communities. So I am truly grateful. As a result of those successes, we have recently put in a USDA $350,000 grant to try to expand this even further. So again, these are things that people don't have to choose to do, but they choose to do because they're committed to the mission, okay? And this year, as ISU made recruitment and retention its priority, the institution had a goal. The goal was to make sure that every incoming student was professionally advised, received professional advising. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of professional advisors in our college. So I am incredibly grateful to Virginia Barnett, who stepped up and made sure that every one of our incoming students this year received professional advising. So hats off to Virginia for taking that on with a little help from a colleague in the Meridian Center. And this year, we did something that I think is really important and certainly fits with the president's mission. We grew CPI opportunities for students. Why is that important? Well, that is important because we want to make sure that our students understand that when they come to us and they earn a degree, that they have skills that employers want. We also want to make sure that our employers understand that the students who come from your programs have the skills that they want and that they need to continue to be successful. So we're going to continue to kind of build these external CPI opportunities for students because it creates an opportunity for that conversation to occur about how important a liberal arts education is to the success of our students and to the success of those businesses in our communities. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Oh, so have we solved the retention challenge? No. I don't think we have. Have we done a lot of things that are going to help ISU solve that retention challenge? Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's not just me telling you that. I'm going to show you that. Next slide, please. So why am I saying all of this, right? Am I crazy? Do I have COVID-19? Am I reading the data wrong? I'm not. When I share this with you, I was just so moved. At the end of spring semester, after we went totally unexpectedly online, right? Totally unexpectedly online. When we got to the end of term, right? So the end of the semester, our enrollment for spring semester was 10.2% higher than it was for the spring the year before. Okay, we are a big college. That is a huge number. That after we thought we would lose a lot of students, right, as a result of COVID-19, that they would decide that, try it again next year, but they didn't. Okay, you retained those students. You built relationships with them, and they stayed to the end. They hung in there, and we were up 10.2%. So there's really about 4 points in time the institutions really worry about enrollment, right? Kind of first day, 10th day, census day, and the real clincher is end of term. That's where we stood at the end of term. That's where we stood in spring of 2020. And then just to think, maybe that's a weird anomaly. Kids had nothing to do, so they just hung in there with us. we were receiving messages, chairs were receiving messages all summer from Central Academic Advising. And one of the things that I was so proud of when we saw those numbers, and it was broken out by college, is that by the middle of summer, 90% of continuing students, 90%, so the students who hadn't graduated, 90% of them had already registered for fall 2020. And despite contraction in our budget, despite all of these challenges, and we look at these data to make sure that Cal is creating access and opportunity that if we aren't able to provide what students need in terms of general education, that they might go somewhere else. There's a lot of online programs, so students have choice. We have competition, we all do. But we always look to make sure that we are still creating an open pipeline for students to traverse. And just like in previous years, we still account for about 33% of all the enrollment at ISU. Now that means enrollment in Idaho Falls, in Twin Falls, in Meridian, includes all of that, including Alaska, okay? So 33% is quite a bit, okay? So we carry a pretty heavy load. We carry a huge responsibility in our college. And here's the thing that you'll be surprised about, right? I know we've all been worried about enrollment, and we should as an institution. We saw the pattern, we saw the trend, but based upon data from enrollment management, if we compare where we are today, keeping in mind that first day is not until Monday, so there's still a few days in here, and 10th day is 10 more days out. So comparing to 10th day, because that's an important day for funding, that's an important day for us to report to the State Board of Education how well we are doing with enrollment. So that's the one that they really want to pay attention to, right? Things change in those 10 days as students figure out if they're going to keep classes, if they're going to move classes, if they're going to take one less class. But if we compare us today to 10th day, right, we are already up, depending upon which set of numbers you use, and I'll explain this to you, we are up over last year for fall. We are up, not down, up. 1% and as much as 10%. I would actually argue if we rounded it, 11%. Madison, can you show? So I'm going to show you the data, try to explain this to you. This data is really hot off the press. It came from enrollment management actually yesterday. And so this is yesterday's numbers. And you can look at this and I'll show you a few numbers. I'll see if I can figure out how to point to them on the slide. All right. So if you look overall at the institution, right, if we include all students, right, we are down, that's this number right here as an institution. This is headcount data, not credit hour data. This is headcount data. So if you look, we are down about 6.36%. The institution is down, but Kandi said we are up. If you were to look just at our college, and you can see that on the line, let's go all the way to the far right, right? So this is the data without undecided students in it, right? Because undecided students might go everywhere. So they look at the data both ways. If we took out the undecided students, the College of Arts and Letters is up 1.5%, okay, 1.5%. If we include undecided students, which I would argue we should, because the way we have set up our application materials is that we don't just say undecideds or undecideds or undecideds, okay? The application actually asks students that if they're undecided to identify what college they are in. And keep in mind, in terms of colleges, we didn't exist 11 years ago, but students are choosing, right, to pick Cal as one of the places that they want to major, okay? So every college has undecided, all right? If we were just talking undecided meaning you're undecided and you don't choose a college, you can see here that we are actually, those students are actually down about 85.61%, okay? Hopefully you can see that on the screen. If we break out by college, the undecideds that students have identified, so that means we have a lot of students who are looking to us and saying, I'm going to attend Idaho State University. I don't know what I want to major in, but it's something in the liberal arts and social and behavioral sciences. they're choosing our college. And if you include those students, we are actually up 10.66%. Now, the huge responsibility comes that these students are still making choices, and it won't just be Cal that benefit from some of them. We know some of them will navigate to majors outside of our college. But students know, and you've made it safe for them to be able to come here and explore their interests, to take some time to figure out what they are really passionate about. So whether we're talking we're up 1.5% or we're up 10.66%, in this environment, if you have been reading the Chronicle of Higher Education, if you look at where things are across campus, and not to create comparisons, this is not about being competitive. This is about saying thank you to you all for working so hard at recruiting students, doing what you do well so that they want to come here and they want to be part of our college. So I really want to thank you for that. And this is really surprising. This is really surprising. Until I saw the data, I found it, a bit surprising on many fronts, because as you know, I track the data really carefully in our college. Now, I talked to the chairs this morning about how do we make sense of this in the context of being down in credit hours across campus, or across our college in Gen Ed. I want to make sure you know two things. I actually think those credit hour numbers are going to go up in general education. And I don't know how many of your chairs have had a chance yet to share those numbers with you, but we are down in Gen Ed credit hours. But I'm going to suggest that there may be two reasons why we're down. First of all, other colleges are down, and we still have Gen Ed responsibility for students who are majors, not just in Cal, but across campus. But also, normally at this time, we have some of the dual enrollment students already registered in our numbers. So it's not a complete fair comparison, because high schools are still trying to figure out, right, what they are doing next year and how they're going to teach and what format they're going to teach. So we haven't actually started to register those students yet. So we will see some changes as they enroll for general education courses, which is the bulk of what early college does in the high schools. So there's a lot of really wonderful news here, and great news because of the work that you have done. Next slide. Oh. All right, so I'm going to switch gears, but please hang with me, and I'll try to make it quicker, but I really wanted to make sure I could celebrate those points with you, because we didn't get to have a spring celebration, so it was important for me to be able to say thank you and let you know that you are doing all the right things. One of the things that we have seen happen in society as of late is some concerns, some questions about whether or not, as we work through this COVID crisis, work through the pandemic, whether or not we are really using, right, our science to inform what we are doing, right? So I think there's that big conversation going on, between, if you will, leadership in the United States and the CDC and NIH. So I thought maybe we could do exactly what we encourage our students to do, right? Look at the data, look at the information that is available, and maybe see if that can guide us on how we can continue to do the great things that we're doing. That does affect teaching, research, service, and ultimately recruitment and retention. So I'm going to share some research that's hot off the presses that was actually presented in trying to come up with the right word, a training session. These data have been accepted for publication but have not yet come out, a seminar through the Society of Neuroscience. So I'm going to share that work with you. The data were collected actually in the UK. Madison, you want to move the slide? And this is a study that looks specifically at how COVID-19 is impacting individuals in society right now. So this was a study that was already ongoing, where they've been collecting a lot of health information and other kinds of demographic information in the UK. And granted, maybe things are different in different countries, but I think there's probably something here for us to learn. And then they were given the opportunity to start collecting data on some more social behavioral indicators as well. And one of the indicators they looked at first and foremost was feelings of social isolation, as well as feelings of loneliness. And if you look down on the x-axis, what you will see is that they've broken people out by age groups, and they've broken them out as before pandemic and after pandemic, right? Before and after. And what you'll see is that for the most part, right, social isolation and loneliness was pretty low for individuals across the spectrum. For the most part, 5% of the population were experiencing feelings of social isolation or loneliness. After the pandemic, okay, we see some increases in some loneliness, but notice that there's a difference here, right? People are clearly feeling much more isolated, surprise, surprise, right? So we've gone from 5 to about 20%. But look at this, if we look at loneliness, these guys are managing it with much lower levels of feeling lonely than the individuals who are 18 to 29 years old. They are experiencing disproportionate levels of loneliness while they are being isolated. And I bring that point up to you because I do think the data have implications for what we are doing. A significant number of our students will be in that 18 to 29 year range. Those are the ones who are really going to need it. So paying attention to this and recognizing that our students this year might be different than the students we had last year, in part because of what they are living through. And we all know that. So they will certainly be experiencing and reporting greater feelings of loneliness. Next slide. And the next slide, what we see is reported ratings of anxiety and depression, right? So the darker bars mean a greater percentage of them are reporting severe and moderate anxiety and depression. And what we'll see is if you break it out by age, right, and this is in the last 2 weeks, so this is all post-COVID, what we see is that the people who are experiencing more anxiety and depression at more severe levels are, again, those individuals who are in that 18 to 29 range. Next slide. The other thing, and this slide is for me, as somebody who does cognitive research, you know, we're looking at this slide and we're saying, wow, these individuals, and this is happening in my home with 2 college students in it, they're having poor quality of sleep, right? We already know that young people have really unusual patterns of sleep, right? They go to bed late, they may not sleep well, they might be distracted by their phones going off, as is happening to me right now here. So they have all those things going on. But you'll see that these guys, in the last 2 weeks, they're reporting that their sleep quality in those younger age groups is much worse than it was prior to COVID-19. So young people are having problems with sleep. Now, why that's for me is because we know that sleep is related to storing of long-term memories and ability to remember things, right? So our students are going to struggle a little bit more probably as a result of this as well. Next slide. So if we take this study that I think initially had like 19,000 participants in it, and we whittle it down to just looking at adolescents, so the people who were probably in high school last year and likely to be transitioning to a university setting, or at least some set of them. What we see also in terms of things that are related to what's going to be happening on our campus on Monday, we see that 64 of those respondents say that they are really worried about COVID-19. They're worried about it. So they're worried when they come to class, you know, and sit on a paw print. And 50% of them admit that they had a difficulty adjusting to homeschooling, right? They had difficulty learning online. So, you know, I look at this study and you think, oh my gosh, what are we up against? You know, how are we going to be able to, you know, ensure that these students continue to get out of our classes what we want them to get out of it? How can we make them feel comfortable? How can we help them feel safe? And I don't have all of the answers, but I can tell you that this same study reported some optimism as well. These exact same young people indicated that 95% of them had somebody in their home who helped them. So they were able to get through, you know, anxiety, depressions, feelings of loneliness. They were able to, you know, get through the fact that they're not sleeping well because they had family members who were helping them out. 90% of them said they had a friend who was helping them out, right? So they have friends and family who are supporting them so that they can get through this really difficult time. Here's the statistic that I think we need to pay attention to. 95% of them said there was someone at school who helped them. So if we look at this data and we think about our impact and we think about where our students are coming from and we contextualize all of that, we have a real opportunity if we can provide them with the support that they need, the understanding that they need, that they can be successful, that they can survive, they can succeed under these really difficult circumstances. I think you're ahead of yourself. One more. So,
That was an accident.
So right here's where I need to be. So I guess what I'm asking for and what our goal needs to be this year, as much as I would love to say, okay, we're going to continue to be great teachers. Yes, you will. There is no doubt. Cal has a long tradition of being great teachers, right? Research, oh my gosh, you guys are hitting it out of the park in terms of research. I could tell you that that's our priority. It certainly was when we thought we were going to be the MIT of the West, right? I could tell you about service being really important, and it is. Trust me, it is. And recruitment and retention. But I can tell you all those things are going to come together beautifully if we can take the time and be intentional about supporting one another, supporting our students and supporting our colleagues so that we can continue to do the things that we do best. Students being great students, faculty being great in their faculty roles, staff members being great at supporting us and supporting our students as well. And I'm going to ask you now to help me do just that, right? I'm going to ask you now to take a moment and help me welcome and support our new colleagues, many of whom probably have yet to attend a faculty meeting where they didn't have to Zoom in or they didn't have to wear a mask. So I'm going to ask that you help me welcome each one of them. I'm just going to read through their names, and then we're going to actually turn the Zoom meeting over to each of them for just 30 seconds to tell us something about themselves and then something unique about themselves, something fun about themselves, so you can get to know them at least a little bit today at our welcoming assembly. So I'm going to read through their names first, and then we'll just go through them one at a time. So we have John Burnham, we have Nikira Capson, we have Darcy Graves, we have Ines Jindra, we have Lauren McDonald, and we have Jenna Thompson. So we will start, right, Madison? Yeah. Can you move to them? Okay, so John, you get a start. I saw you on the screen. Where are you?
I'm here.
There you go. So tell us about yourself and then tell us a fun fact.
My name's John Burnham. I've been in Idaho for quite a bit of time. I've worked for the Department of Juvenile Corrections for the state of Idaho for the last 26 years, and just making a changeover now. I'm married and have 3 wonderful boys. One of them will be attending here in the fall, which will be nice and fun. An interesting thing about me is that I started off as a music major back way when, and really love to play the piano.
Ah, excellent. We love our music majors. Thank you, John. And our next individual is Madison. Nikira.
Hi, I'm Nikira. I'm going to be teaching graphic design. I just got my MFA in the art department at ISU. I was born and raised in Idaho, so Idaho State is kind of in my blood a little bit because it's my school. My fun fact, I have a guilty pleasure of the comment section. I love to read people's comments. I love to see how people react to just about anything, so that's kind of what I like to do.
So Nikira, how have our comments been today?
They've been really sweet and nice. Some of them are mean online.
Uh-oh, well good, hopefully not here, that's great.
No, you guys are all really nice.
Excellent. All right, next. Darcy?
Hi, I'm Darcy Graves. I just moved here from Washington State to teach in the new MSW program here. I guess something interesting about me is that I've been a student. I have degrees from both of the other major Idaho institutions. I have a minor grad from U of I and my master's from Boise State, and then I went to Washington for my PhD. But now that I'm here on campus, I don't know why I never came to school here, because I actually think it is a much nicer campus than Boise State.
We agree. Yes, it's E-class. All right, our next new colleague. Ennis?
Hi, my name is Ines Chindra and I'm the BSW program director here now, and I'm also an assistant professor of social work. I just moved here, like Darcy, from Massachusetts. It was a long trip. And maybe an interesting thing about me, I'm from Switzerland originally and I love to bike. So I think I'm at a good place right here. And I have 3 boys, one of whom is leaving tomorrow for college. So he's flying out. So I think that's it.
Well, welcome.
Thanks.
Our next, Lauren. Is Lauren, I saw Lauren. Lauren, there you are.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. I'm in the Department of History. I work on Latin American history. I'm new to Idaho, so I'm excited to learn more about the state. And a fun fact about me is that my favorite movie is Mad Max: Fury Road, and I've seen it in theaters 11 times.
Wow. You may get some invitations if we're fortunate enough to have it in the area. All right. And
Then we have Jenna. I'm gonna see if she can start video. Sorry, I can't spotlight her, but she's here.
Can you hear me though?
Yes.
hi, Jenna.
Oh, good. Hi, sorry my video is not working for some reason. I get my camera to work, but my name is Jenna Thompson and I am the new Child Welfare Scholars Coordinator for the Social Work Department. I am coming here from doing work with the VA, working with combat vets, and work in the schools with Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25, as well as working in private practice settings as well. I guess something interesting about me maybe is that I started out in dance education, is kind of where I began my college career, and dancing in Boston and San Francisco, and have continued to teach dance for many years.
Excellent. So let's all give our new colleagues a round of applause, right? And thank them for being here. Whether they're coming from the East Coast or if they're more local, we're really excited to have you here as part of our extended ISU family. So it's great to see you all, even if it's virtual for now, and hopefully in the near future we'll be able to be together. I do want to just kind of wrap things up by saying a couple of small things here. And thank you for dealing with being anxious about trying to do something new and different, and us having a few technological difficulties, but I think we've managed to pull this off, and I'm glad we decided to do this. But I know that this year we're going to have to support each other in ways that maybe we haven't thought about it, and it will have to be intentional. We're going to find that we have colleagues who are working remotely, and it's going to take more effort for them to be a part of our community and to support them. We also know that we are going to have students who will forget their masks, and we're going to have to find ways to gently remind them, right, to keep others safe. We also know that we're going to have parents who are going to receive information about their children and that they might be really worried about their safety. We know that we're going to have students who are going to come to us and know that their season has been canceled, right? And we are also going to have folks who are really struggling with some very serious things. And so it's not going to be easy this year. We're going to have students at a distance. We're all going to be working and doing things differently, but I'm going to ask that we try to find ways to be intentional with our support. And sometimes it's something big, maybe taking food and leaving it at the door of somebody who's not well. And maybe it's just asking somebody how they're doing. You haven't seen them for a while, and making them feel well supported and know that they have a friend. So I'm going to ask you this year, who knew that a few years ago, as we talk about all these academic things, that what needed to be our priority this year was taking care of each other and taking care of our students in the way we know we need to by providing that support. I want to let you know that the college is committed to helping support you all. So I want to provide a little bit of context before I explain the slide to you. We were talking about in our office how we can support our colleagues, and recognizing that last year, as we have in previous years, we worked really hard to make sure that we had money to support research and to support travel for faculty members. And in prior years when we're able to use salary savings for things, we even had small seat grants. Those times have changed. Everybody is working with less and trying to do more. So what we did is we looked, and despite the fact that even some of our operating we had to give up this year, at least one time, and who knows, but at least one time, we went through and said, okay, since we are not sure about travel, having a call that goes out, that normally goes out about this time, is something that we don't know that we can really deliver on, that we may have resources that we've tried to use to support our faculty and our departments that won't be available. So we went through and we took little pools of money from different areas and pulled it all together and said, okay, here's what we have. Here are some resources that we can use to support our departments. And we decided, and we are going to challenge all of you to work with your colleagues in your department. But we found a total of $55,000. $55,000 that we would use to support lots of things, you know, whether it's needing enough money to hire and advertise for hiring, or to pay for visits when people come to campus. Some of those things we're not so sure are going to happen. Where we pooled that money, and we are going to distribute that $55,000 to all of the departments based upon their head count. So based upon their full-time faculty. And so this is a pie graph that shows you kind of how we are distributed as a college in the very disciplines. And so we're going to distribute those. I think there's, I don't want to be quoted because I don't know if Angie's here. I can't see her in my 25, but I don't think there's a department that has less than $2,500. But we're going to distribute those resources to the college, to the departments, and with a couple of caveats. One of them is that we're really going to challenge you to put these resources towards whatever it is your department needs, whatever it is that you need to have that will support you and move your program forward. Because we recognize that that support is what's going to help you do the things that you do really well. So you will work together as a team in your college, in your departments, to figure out what those priorities are. We are going to ask you, because we're going to have some more Zoom meetings. I want to work at getting better at this, okay? We're going to have you come back and talk with us about, not me, not the chairs, but each other, about how you engaged in that process and how you came to prioritize the things that really matter, and why you made the choices you did. And then, you know, by the end of the school year, we'll check in with everybody and see whether or not your investment really had the effect that you had hoped it had. And we know that not everything is going to work out perfect, but we feel like it's much better to give you the opportunity to support each other and address individual needs that your programs have that we might never know about. So that's what we're hoping to do this year. The chairs were given a little heads up on this, but this is about you all doing it, not them doing it, and working together as a team. So we want you to see that, you know, we don't have, there's limited ways that we can support, there's limited resources, but we understand how important this is. Next slide. Oh. All right, so with that being said, I want to thank you again for making last year and last spring a huge success. I want to thank you for enrollment numbers that I could not have imagined, especially in a pandemic. I want to thank you for being innovative in all that you do, and I want to encourage you to continue to do that, and to do that as members of teams in your department. So thank you very much. And we're going to have a fantastic fall. See you all. Bye-bye.